All right, let's talk about Bomber Crew. This is a game that just pulls you in with its super cute, cartoony look, and then bam, it throws you into the cockpit for this high stakes, life or death survival mission. It's a game people love for its charm, but it's also kind of infamous for how cruel it can be. So let's get into it. And nothing really sets the tone quite like this quote, seriously. In a game where you can send messages with a carrier pigeon, you learn really, really fast that no one is safe, not even the bird. This one little line, it perfectly captures that grim reality that's hiding just under the surface. And this right here, this is the soul of the Bomber Crew experience. It brings you in with these adorable little bobble-headed crewmates and colorful planes, but it keeps you there with gameplay that's deep, demanding, and honestly, often panic-inducing. That whiplash between cute and cruel is exactly what makes the game so hard to forget. So let's really dig into that first impression. How does a game that looks this friendly, this inviting, end up being so punishing? When you first start up, you're in charge of a 7-person crew in a classic World War II bomber, and you get to do all the fun stuff, right? You name them, you pick out their gear, you can even give your plane a custom paint job. It all feels so lighthearted, but trust me, that friendly vibe is hiding a razor-sharp edge. And that razor's edge? It's called permadeath. When a crew member dies, they are gone. For good. No respawns, no do-overs. And because you've named these little guys, you've leveled them up, you've seen them through some tough missions, you get attached. This one mechanic all by itself turns the game from a casual flight sim into this gut-wrenching fight for survival. The stakes aren't just high, they're everything. So what does it actually feel like to fly one of these missions? Well, the moment-to-moment gameplay is where the real chaos kicks in. It demands your absolute focus, and man, you better be good at multitasking. I mean, this quote from Xbox Tavern just nails it. It couldn't be more accurate. You're not just juggling a few tasks, you're juggling them while you're getting shot at. And one tiny mistake doesn't just mean you drop a ball. It means the whole thing can literally explode in your face. Just take a look at this list. And this isn't even everything. So you're trying to tag enemy fighters, you're navigating, you're lining up your perfect bombing run. Then, out of nowhere, an engine's on fire. Your hydraulics go out, which means your turrets are dead. A gunner is bleeding out and needs a medkit. This is where things totally snowball. One small problem cascades into a dozen emergencies in the blink of an eye. Now, if this frantic crisis management sounds familiar, well, there's a good reason for that. A lot of people compare Bomber Crew to the classic roguelike, FTL Faster Than Light. Both games are absolute masters at forcing you to manage your crew and your ship under crushing pressure, where total disaster is always just one bad call away. It's a formula that just works for creating intense, unforgettable gameplay. To give you a real taste of what this feels like, let's walk through a story from a player on Reddit. It just perfectly captures how fast a mission can go from, "we've got this," to a complete and total nightmare. So the mission's going great, the target's been destroyed, and our player is heading for home. Everything seems totally under control. And then, it's not. 8 enemy fighters just swarm the bomber and the chaos starts. The attack is just brutal. We're talking seconds later and the player is already facing an impossible choice. 2 of my crew are dying, but I've only got 1 medkit. Who do you save? Every single decision you make becomes a life or death gamble. And here's that snowball effect we were talking about. While the player is trying to deal with the wounded gunners, the plane is just getting torn to shreds. An engine is out, the electrical system is fried, the hydraulics are gone. Their one engineer is now looking at an impossible to-do list of critical repairs. And this is where true desperation sets in. To have any shot at saving the plane, the engineer has to do one of the most dangerous things in the game: climb out onto the wing, in the middle of a fight, to fix a burning engine. It's this heroic, last-ditch move, and it ends in tragedy. The result is just devastating. The plane goes into a nosedive. After an emergency ditch into the sea, it's gone. Only one single crew member manages to get out alive. This story just perfectly shows you the terror of command in this game. One second you're cruising home, the next you're in a desperate, and often losing, fight for your life. Okay, so the game isn't just about terror and losing. It's also about the incredible satisfaction of beating those challenges. So how do you actually win? Let's talk about the path to victory, because believe it or not, there is one. This one Reddit user basically summed up the game's core strategy perfectly. If you try to rush through the main story missions, you're basically flying an under-equipped plane straight into hell. But if you take your time and you grind those earlier, safer missions for money and experience, you can totally flip the script and make things way more manageable.
If you look across forums and reviews, a pretty clear strategy for survival starts to emerge. People say to upgrade your plane's armor and essential systems before anything else. Grinding those early, low-risk missions is how you build up cash. And practical stuff like parachutes for everyone and a self-sealing fuel tank can mean the difference between a close call and losing everything. But maybe the most important skill? Knowing when to just swallow your pride, abort the mission, and live to fly another day.
And this is why players put themselves through all that pain. The game is so brutally hard that when you finally succeed, when you limp back to base with a plane full of holes but your crew is still breathing, it's one of the most satisfying feelings you can get from a video game. The struggle is what makes that victory feel so earned. So when you put it all together, what's the final verdict from players and critics? Let's take a look at the overall reception. On Metacritic, the game's sitting at a really solid 75 out of 100 for PC, which they call generally favorable reviews. So that tells you that, while it's definitely not for everybody, most critics really appreciated what the game was doing with its challenging design. And when you dig into those reviews, a really clear picture starts to form. On the plus side, everyone agrees it's engaging, deep, and super rewarding, with a fantastic art style. But on the flip side, the very things that make it challenging are also the biggest complaints. The missions can get repetitive, the learning curve is a cliff, and man, it can be brutally frustrating. It's also worth pointing out that a few reviews mention the controls on console can be a little clunky compared to a mouse and keyboard. But ultimately, the consensus is that Bomber Crew is just a uniquely compelling experience. It's tense, it's exhilarating, and it's a deep management sim. And despite all the ways it can make you want to tear your hair out, its rewarding loop and chaotic rhythm make it a game that, for the right kind of person, is almost impossible to put down. So we end up with this question. Bomber Crew asks for a lot of your patience, your perseverance, and you gotta have a thick skin for failure. It will absolutely test your ability to multitask under the most extreme pressure. The question for anyone thinking about signing up is pretty simple. Is that incredible feeling of a hard-fought win worth the brutal price of admission?